Every dream has a price, but sometimes we feel price is too high. What if someone stood by you, believed in you, and gave a chance to rise? Here is your chance. Rathod Science Academy is conducting All India Scholarship Test. It is not just a test, it is a doorway for your dreams. We believe talent should never be stopped by money. So grab your chance and turn your determination into opportunity. Every rank has a reward and avail your reward based on your performance. Top 1 to 50 ranks will get 50% of discount on this online GS Foundation course fee, and 51 to 75 ranks will get 40% of discount, and 76 to 100 ranks will get 30% of discount. This test is going to be conducted on 10th of this September online mode. So anywhere from India you can take this test at 6 p.m. and this test will have 50 questions based on UPSC prelims format. Duration of this test is 30 minutes, and if you want to take this test, registration is mandatory. You have to register by using QR code or you have to fill the Google form. The link is given in the description box, and I wish you all the best. Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see current affairs of 6th September 2020. Let's see the first article. See the title. Title says Key Meaty Group rejects government's SOO pact with Cookizo. So actually this article is very important from your security point of view. Okay, now let us see this article clearly. And what is the keyword? Keyword is SOO. So what is the full form of this SOO? That is suspension of operation. So please make a note, SOO is suspension of operation, guys. Okay, now let us see this article clearly. So if you want to know this article, you need to know about certain background. So without knowing of background, you can't understand this article. So this article is talking about Manipur issue. And this article is very important from your GS paper 3 under internal security. So actually you know that Manipur belongs to which part of our country? Northeastern part. And this northeastern part of our country is having lots of problems. So first one is they are having typical topography. So because of this typical topography like mountains, hills in that region, there is very less development in this region. First important problem. And second one here is normally these hilly regions are inhabited by tribal people. So we have more tribal population in this region. This is the second important problem. And next one here is this northeastern region is very much famous for ethnic conflicts. Ethnic conflicts. So as you all know that from 2023 onwards, this Manipur is seen highly in news because of issues or conflicts in this region. So actually if you want to know the background of this Manipur, so Manipur got this statehood status in year 1972. So in 1972, Manipur got this statehood status, and after that majorly the issue is between three groups in this Manipur. So those three groups are, the first one is Meiteis, and next one is Kukis, and third one is Naga community. So between these three communities, even before the statehood and after the statehood, continuously the issues are going on. And if you see this location of Meiteis, Kukis and Nagas, so here in this way we will be having hills, right? So Kukis or ST, that is scheduled tribe people, they mainly live on this hilly region. So these Kukis, they live in this hilly part. And this region is called as valley region, right? So this region is valley region. So in this region, Meiteis will live. Okay, normally if you see the location of these Kukis, your scheduled tribes, they will live on these hills, and this Meiteis live in this valley region. So whenever they got the statehood, that is in 1972 onwards, always these Kukis, they mainly fight for their autonomy. They are fighting for their autonomy, and as well as they are fighting for their statehood. To silence this issue, actually in 2008, SOO came up. That is nothing but the thing that we are talking about. This, that is SOO is nothing but suspension of operations. So first round of suspension of operations came in year 2008. And under this agreement, what is the thing they signed here is, yes, from now onwards, cookies can live in the cadre regions or in this military regions or in this military camps, but they should not use any arms so that we can protect them. So this is the agreement in which is made in 2018. So in this 2008 agreement, here government said, that is Manipur government said, yes, cookies they can live in this military camps, but they should not use any arms so that we can provide security for this cookies. And what happened in this 2023? 2023 very severe issues happened between this metis and as well as cookies. So what is the reason behind that issue is they are fighting for their land rights. So cookies they normally live in this hilly regions in this forest. So they are fighting for the land rights. It is the first reason. And second reason here is they are fighting for especially against ST status. So actually these Metis people they live in this valley region and now they are also going to get this ST status. So because of this cookies they fight against this ST status for this Metis, and violent clashes happened between this Metis and as well as cookies, and that led to around 200 people died in this clashes between Metis and cookies. And apart from that, around 60,000 people they got displaced from this area to save their life. And now to solve that issue in 2025, now central government along with Manipur state government, now Manipur state government and central government came up with this second agreement of SOO, and in this SOO they said 4 important things. So we are going to identify illegal migrants and we are going to send back from their military camps. That is the first thing they said. And this one is they said that they are going to improve safety and security of this Metis. And even they said 4 important points. We are going to see those important points, and this is the background. So without knowing this background of who is this Metis, cookies and Nagas and what is the issue which is happening in Manipur, you can't understand why in this 2025 central government and Manipur government came up with this SOO and what are these provisions of this SOO now. Okay, so this is about certain background regarding this article. And now let us see exactly what is there in this article. So one key Metis group, and that group name is Coordinating Committee on Manipur Integrity, that is COOMI, which is rejecting this government's extension of this suspension of operations now. Okay, that is about cookies insurgent groups. So now this Metis are objecting this SOO which is came up by the central government and as well as Manipur government, which is providing protection for this cookies now. So why this Metis group are rejecting this? The first one here is Metis group was saying that because of this SOO suspension of operation agreement, it is recognizing especially these cookies and as well as they are showing certain kind of favoritism to these cookies. That is the first thing they said. And next one is they also said that whenever they are going for this extension of this SOO undertaken during this president rule, it is undemocratic now. So actually this 2008 this thing, that is SOO which came up for the first time, so they came up during this president rule, and how you can extend that now in 2025 which is not under this president rule. That is the second question which mainly raised by this Metis groups now. And this one is this agreement which is also emphasizing on respecting for Manipur's territorial integrity, which is viewed as insufficient. So if they're coming up with this kind of agreements which shows about safety and security of Manipur, so how can we do this? So this agreement will not be sufficient for maintaining of security or respect of this Manipur territory. This is the one more thing they said. And next one here is under this agreement they said that we are going to open one national highway, that is National Highway 2. It is going from Impal to Dimapur for free movement. So because of this they are saying that it is dangerous, and now vulnerable people are Metis, not the cookies. So because of all these reasons now Metis are opposing this agreement. And what are the key provisions? The first one is they said that they are going to have a joint monitoring group, and this group will verify the cadres or the camps
where these cookies are living, and if there are any illegal migrants or insurgents which is happening, they will be sent back. The first point they said is, we are going to prevent foreign nationals residing in these camps. Only in this military camps these cookies should live, not others. The first important point. And next one is camp relocation and reduction. So designated camps, they will be reduced to 6 each, and the number, if number of people who are living in that camp is more, means we are going to relocate that camp, and we are going to maintain many camps so that we can provide proper security for these cookies, because many people are dying because of this cookie meat issue. So it is now the responsibility of government to provide security for these people. So for that they said that we are not going to maintain more numbers in a camp, we are going to limit the numbers. And this one here is, yes, the stipends to these cadres are paid via Aadhaar linked bank accounts, and only to those physically verified in this camp. So it is aiming to minimize the misuse. So the people who are living in these military camps, then they will be also getting some financial benefits or incentives from the government, and these financial incentives will be transferred to their bank account directly. So here they said that we are going to now onwards provide this finance to their bank accounts directly, so that we can reduce the misuse of these funds. And they also said that armored groups cannot recruit new cadres, carry weapons outside the camps, collaborate with other outfits, or conduct offensive operations. So actually what is happening, the issue which is happening between these meaties and cookies, whenever the issues will happen, they will be trying to use arms, trying to use bombs against each other, right? So here under this new act, they said that, so whoever the cookies who are living in these military camps, they should not carry arms in their camps, and even outside of their camps also they should not use any arms, and they should not have any collaboration with any other outfits to attack this meaties. That is also one thing which mainly said, so that we can decrease tensions between cookies and as well as meaties. Hence, one is all groups they must follow this Indian constitution, and they said that we have to respect Manipur's territory, and actually they want to compromise with this meaty. So because of this, they came up with this SOO now. Clear? So these are the provisions of this SOO of 2025, and it is very very important. And what is the impact of this pact? So we are going to uh, this article is saying that this pact, it is focusing on especially cookies. They're not giving any protections for this meaties. That will lead to increasing of further divide or further gap between meaties and as well as cookies. And meaties are calling this as anti-people. That will lead to further alienation of this meaties from this agreement. And next one here is SOO remains a confidence building framework now. And actually they are going for this dialogues between central government, Manipur government, and as well as Kuki communities. So here we can say that there is lack of broad stakeholder consultation. Here meetings are not taken into account while the discussions are going on or while the agreement is going on. This is also one issue. And this pact is also mainly criticized for violating constitutional rights of citizens, because they are giving only protection for this cookies, not for meaties. That means it is also affecting right to equality. Right to equality comes in Article 14 of our Indian Constitution. So all are equal, but this pact is only talking about cookies. So because of this, it is violating fundamental rights. And even they said that it is also having broader geopolitical risk as well. Okay, so these are the things which are mainly said. It is a very, very important topic of the day from internal security from GS paper 3, guys. It is one of the milestone in Manipur history. Okay, now let us see this article. So what can you see here? Area which is entirely inundated, right? So actually this article is talking about one important river, that is river Yamuna. So this region is inundated under this river Yamuna. So where is river Yamuna located? Normally in the northern part of our country, North India, yes. And it is important tributary of which river system of Himalayan river system? River Ganga. Okay, river Ganga's important tributary is river Yamuna. So actually nowadays what is happening in this northern part of our country or North India, there is heavy rains and even mini cloudbursts are happening. So because of this, there is increased water level in the rivers, and as well as there is the faster rate of melting of glaciers. That is also one important reason that we can say for increasing of water level in this Himalayan rivers, right? So now because of this mini cloudburst, because of heavy rainfall, actually this river Yamuna is overflowing, and it is entering into some cities because it is flowing across the cities on the banks of this river Yamuna. We have many cities. So these cities are mainly affected. Okay. especially Noida is affected. This area is Noida, very, very important industrial region of our country, and this had been inundated now. Okay, so here what you have to say is you have to see some facts regarding this river Yamuna. So every year, at least 2 questions you will be getting from the river systems. It may be Himalayan river system or it may be Peninsula river system, and you have to make a clear-cut notes for these rivers. So I'll tell you a format. So please follow that format to make the notes for the rivers. So first you have to write river on one column. What is the name of river? For example, you can take river Ganga. And next you have to see the place where it originates. On this place where originates, lots of times UPSC asks a question. This is one of the favorite area. The place where it originates. And this one is it how many states it will flow. You have to see the number of the states, like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and you have to write the names of those states for sure. Okay, because they'll ask you a question like this river is flowing in so and so area. So please arrange that states from east to west or north to south. Okay, so they'll ask you like west to east or east to west or north to south or south to north, whatever the direction is possible. They'll ask you to arrange the flowing of that river in which area or which size. And next you have to see tributaries. Tributaries are nothing but the small river which will join this mainstream river, right? And here whenever river it is flowing in this direction, if the tributaries are coming and joining in this way, they are called as left bank tributaries, left side. So if they are coming and joining in this way, they are called as right bank tributaries, right? So you have to see both left bank tributaries of a river and as well as right bank tributaries of a river. So on this area also, UPSC can ask a question. So like identify which of the following rivers are right bank tributaries of river Ganga or left bank tributaries of river Ganga. And one more thing here is wherever these tributaries are coming and joining this mainstream river, you have to see the location also, the place where these tributaries are meeting. Okay, for example, you know about this river Indus. So river Indus is having some important tributaries like river Chenab, river Ravi, Satluj. So once in 2023 the question was, so this so and so river meet this river Indus at which site, or which river is meeting which river. Okay, and which is a direct tributary which is connecting to river Indus. So like that also you will be getting certain complicated questions. You have to be very clear with mapping for this rivers. Okay, and apart from that, you have to see whether it is a west bank or sorry. Okay, whether it is east flowing or west flowing rivers for your peninsular rivers. Or else if there is any important dam which is constructed on that river, you have to know that. In 2024, there was a question on dam on river Tungabhadra. Okay, so like that you have to see even if there are any dam which are there in news, or like if there is any collapsing of dams that we saw in the recent past, we have to see that. And even you have to see if there is any new project government is going to come up on that river, you have to see that. So in that way dams are also very, very important, guys. So in this way you have to make notes clearly, and if possible use maps. Okay, use maps and draw in that map each and every system, so that it will be helpful for your long term memory also. Okay, so in this way you have to make, and even if possible write challenges. So what challenges that river system is facing, and also if you want to connect even environment, you have to see which are the animals we can see, and even which are the national parks which are located on that banks of river. So if you connect this, you can connect both your geography along with your environment and ecology. So try to make notes in A4 size sheets in this format, so that it will be very, very useful. And while you are making notes for this rivers, try to keep map beside you and see even national parks. So in 2021, I guess there was a question regarding one river, and they said that, so this is the following national park which is located in that. For example, river Brahmaputra, which flows in this northeastern part, and there are many national parks which are located on this banks of this river Brahmaputra. And every year, because of this floods of this Brahmaputra, rhinoceros will be getting affected. So because of this, you have to see which animals also located in that area. Okay, because in your environment and ecology, you have to see about conservation also. right? So in that conservation, normally we'll do conservation of animal species and plant species. So from that point of view also it is important, guys. Okay, now let us see about some facts regarding this river Yamuna. So river Yamuna system is an integral part of one important Himalayan river system, that is river Ganga, and which is one of the three major river basins in our Himalayan region. So in Himalayan region we have three important river systems. First one is river Indus, second one is river Brahmaputra, and last one is river Ganga. And this Yamuna is related to that Ganga river system, which comes under the part of Himalayan drainage system. And river Yamuna and its numerous tributaries, they flow through northern part of Indian subcontinent, and it will be having lots of influence on the landscape and supporting diverse ecosystem. Actually, I want to say one more thing here. River Yamuna, which mainly flows near this Taj Mahal. So if you go to Taj Mahal, if you go to the backside of river Taj Mahal, you can see this river Yamuna. So actually, what is the problem with this Taj Mahal now? So there is dark color spots, especially greenish, brownish spots we can see on this walls of this Taj Mahal. The important reason behind that spots, because of this we are losing this polishing, we are losing this beauty of this Taj Mahal, is because of some insects which are there in this river. So these insects are coming and just they are sitting on these walls of this Taj Mahal and they are doing shit and they are going back. Because of this shit, so it is having lots of impact on this marble of this Taj Mahal. So because of this, we can connect this thing also from this river system. Okay, so if you see origin of this river Yamuna system, river Yamuna originates from this Yamunotri glacier, very important, and it is near this Mussoorie range of lower Himalayas. So after clearing this UPSC, you will be going to this Mussoorie for your training. So from there itself, this river Yamuna originates. And this glacier is situated at an altitude of approximately around 6,387 meters in Uttarkasi district of Uttarakhand. And this Yamuna river begins its journey from its glacier, and it is one of the most India's significant rivers. And if you see the course of Yamuna, so actually it originates in Uttarakhand, right? So from Uttarakhand it will move to Himachal Pradesh, from there Haryana, and enters Delhi, and it will merges with this river Ganga at Triveni Sangamam. Very important. The place where river Yamuna joins this river Ganga is called as Triveni Sangamam, that is located in this Prayagraj, Allahabad. And normally on important occasions, important festivals, we'll do this, take this bath, religious bath or sacred bath at this Triveni Sangamam. Okay, and it is one of the largest tributary of this river Ganga in northern plains. Okay, if you see what are the problems which is mainly faced by this river Yamuna, it is one of the most polluted river in our country. It is very sacred, but it is one of the most polluted river. The reasons are because of the dumping of waste. So actually, many cities located on these banks of this river Yamuna, they are directly releasing their industrial effluents or waste directly in this river itself. And next one here is because of that pollution, because of the waste dumping, the water in this Yamuna, they are not fit for drinking and as well as even bathing, and even for agriculture use also we cannot use. And even you can see the what is the case of Musi in Hyderabad. So is that water useful for drinking? So you can't stand across that river at least 5 to 10 minutes because of that smell. So the same way this Ganga become that more dreadful than compared to that of this Musi even. So because of that, that water is not at all fit for drinking or washing or bathing or even agriculture use. And actually, what is the one more problem here is there is excessive groundwater extraction which is happening, especially for the agriculture and as well as industrial purposes. So because of this, even that is decreasing the water content in this river Yamuna day by day. And next one here is encroachment and habitat destruction. So there is rapid urbanization, increasing of cities development across this river bank. So because of this, what is happening? Encroachment of wetlands is happening. The area which is flown by this river Yamuna is decreasing day by day. And this one is because of this climate change also it is facing lots of problem, like there is no proper rainfall patterns. We have erratic rainfall patterns. It is nothing but unseasonal timely rainfalls, and even glacial retreat is happening. So frequently it is disrupting the intensity and as well as water level in this river Yamuna. And now there is a very huge rainfall. So because of this, what happened? Inundation of cities is happening because of this erratic rainfall now. Okay. So if you see the map of this river Yamuna, so here this is our river Yamuna. It will be flowing in this region. and it is joining this river Ganga. So this is river Ganga system, and it is joining this at Allahabad. It is called as Triveni Sangamam. And actually we can see Agra here. So if you go to Taj Mahal fort, you can see this river Yamuna clearly. Okay, now let us see the next article, guys. See the title. India plans to strengthen nuclear deterrence, drone warfare capabilities. So, what is this article talking about? It is talking about two important keywords. First one is nuclear deterrence, second one is drone warfare. So, why India is planning for those two things? What is the reason behind it? So, if you see location of India, it is located in Indian Ocean region, right? So, this is our Bay of Bengal. This is Arabian Sea, and this is Indian Ocean, and we are sharing boundary with different countries. So here we have Pakistan, here we have China, here we have Nepal, here we have Bhutan, here we have Myanmar, and this is Bangladesh. And here also we have small island, that is Sri Lanka, right? Okay, so because of this huge border with which we are sharing with different countries, we are having lots of disadvantages. So these two countries are enemy countries, right? Always we have threat. So here we have LOC, and here we have LAC. And if you see with this Myanmar, what is the problem we have? Insurgency problem. And even there is instability in this Bangladesh. Right. So earlier ex-prime minister, she ousted. She came out of that Bangladesh, and after that, now Bangladesh is under control of Muhammad Yunus, and people are not satisfied everything. So because of this, from here, always people will migrate here and there. And with Nepal also, we are having certain issues regarding map. So Nepal came up with a new map, new Nepal countries map, and it included Indian parts in Nepal, like Limpiadura and Lipulekh, two areas. They are very, very important for India. So these two areas which are added in the new map of Nepal, Limpiadura and Lipulekh region. Okay. And because of this, again, the relations between India and Nepal are strained. And even nowadays, Bhutan, it is moving towards China, but India is not accepting that. Again, we are having certain disturbances in our relations. So with almost all these countries that we are sharing border, we don't have very good all-weather relationships for sure. And even one thing that you have to remember is whenever the government is changing. So in India also government will change, right? So from last 3 times onwards, from 2014 onwards, which is a political party in power at the central level, BJP party. So what happens if in the next term, if Congress government comes into power, again the relationship with other countries will be obviously changed. That means whenever the government change happens in other countries, they will be having impact on our India and that country relations. And if central government is changing, then obviously all countries relations will be changing, because every political party which has its own ideology, right? For example, BJP is a rightist party. That means they always focus on privatization. They want to go for development. But Congress, it is a leftist party. So every political party have its own ideology. So because of this, whenever the political party change happens, obviously it is having lots of impact on entire foreign policy of a country at the central level. Okay. So because of this, we have to see like which political party is power in India and how that political party's ideology is, and based on that we can see like how our future relations will be. Okay, that is the thing that you have to see. So because of this, in your polity and governance, you will be seeing about political parties and the ideology of political parties. There you'll be seeing about leftist, rightist, and central political parties. Okay, so you have to know that for sure. And even in ethics also, I'll be trying to explain that political parties and their ideology, because you have this one topic that is called as ethics of political parties, like that. So I'll be discussing there, and we'll be clearly seeing which political party and what is the ideology of that political party. Okay. Yeah, so this is about this. So because of this threats that we are having from this Pakistan and China, obviously we have to improve our defense system. And not only at the borders, but even inside our country also we are having certain issues. So what issues we have? Here we have Naxalism, which is called as Red Corridor, and here we have insurgency, and even we have problem of terrorism. We don't know in which area which kind of terror attacks happen. So recently the very famous terror attack is Pahalgam terror issue or terror attack, right? So because of all those problems, and even we have drug smuggling, illegal arms smuggling, human trafficking, yes or no, and because of those all problems we have to have a better surveillance. If we are not having better surveillance, we can't provide internal security of our country. So for that reason, now government is focusing on nuclear deterrence and as well as having good drones. So till today, we didn't focus much on these drones, guys. Okay, so because of this reason, actually now we learned a lesson from this Operation Sindoor. So in Operation Sindoor, we used missiles, we used S-400 defense system. Obviously, we won that. But from Pakistan side, we learned a lesson that yes, we can use drones also. So if you're using drones, what happens here is the cost will be less. So rather than using directly missile, we can use this drones. It is like costless, and even it is more efficient, and we can even handle easily compared to that of missiles, right? So because of this, now our government is focusing on development of drone technology more. And even recently, do you know, China came up with one advancement. That advancement is drone sizes as a size of mosquito. So even normally without the specs, we can't see that. Okay, that much very small size drone they made. That means you can see like how that advancement of technology is happening every day. Okay, so because of this, now we want to invest in this drone technology, guys. And this topic is very important from our GS paper 3 under science and technology, and as well as internal security from GS paper 3. Okay, so now let us see the context. Are understanding or not? So India has unveiled ambitious plan to strengthen its nuclear deterrence and drone warfare capabilities through comprehensive 15-year defense modernization roadmap. To improve these nuclear systems or nuclear weapons, it is not that much easy. Like we can't make that in 2 months or 3 months. We have to invest a lot of time. We have to go for research and development, and we have to go for test trials, everything. It will take years of time. So for modernizing of our nuclear equipments, nuclear defense system, and as well as to get this drone warfare capabilities, we are going to come up with this 15-year defense modernization roadmap. So if you are writing any answer regarding how India is tackling this internal security and as well as external security threats, you have to add this program. Government is coming up with 15 years defense roadmap for advancement of our technology. It is that much important. And we are focusing on regional security concerns, and we are focusing on technological advancement. And first of all, what is this nuclear deterrence enhancements? Nothing but we are focusing on acquisition. Acquisition is nothing but we are going for purchasing of nuclear delivery system, and as well as especially we are focusing on multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle system technology, and we are focusing on submarines. In the submarines, especially we are focusing on nuclear powered submarines, not diesel powered submarines. So where this new submarines will be there underwater, and who will be using this? Navy will be using that, right? So we are focusing on this nuclear powered ballistic missile submarines, and as well as we are using on this advanced missiles which will be used by both army and air force people. And next one is we are focusing on nuclear command and control infrastructure. If you want to use this nuclear weapons, we need to have this command and control infrastructure. And not only bringing of that missiles, we are also focusing on command and control infrastructure. And next one is we are focusing on chemical, biological, radiological and nuclear reconnaissance capabilities. That means we need certain chemicals, we need certain radiology, nuclear and biological advancements to make these weapons. So for that also we are focusing on that. And next one is actually India has one policy called as no first use policy. So this no first use policy is nothing but we are not going to use this nuclear weapons on the first strike. If someone is using nuclear weapons on India, to strike that we will be using this nuclear weapons. That is called as second strike. India's policy is no first strike. We will be silent. So if someone is attacking, we will be not silent. We will not tolerate that, and in return we will attack that. So that is called as no first use policy. And even if you are developing our nuclear weapons also, India is very stable that we will follow this no first use policy only. So India is very clear about this no first use policy. Okay, and next one here is what are these drone warfare capabilities? We are going to focus on this procurement of drones. They are nothing but unmanned aerial vehicles, and we are focusing on Rudrastra drones. And next one is we are focusing on palm-sized drone swarms. Only this size of the palm we are going to make the drones. That is called as palm-sized drone swarms. Yeah, that's it. And this one is we are going for jamming system. Do you know this jamming system? So jammers we will be using for controlling of signals in the mobiles, right? So do you know this jammers? So for this drones also they will work on the signals, right? So because of this we want to have this adaptive jamming systems to destroy this other countries drones. So for that also we are focusing on this jamming systems. And this one is we are also going to use AI enabled platforms for this missions and as well as battlefield supports. So on all these areas we are focusing on now. And next one is why these measures are being taken now. Because of increasing of escalations between India and Pakistan and as well as India and China. So because of this now we understood that there is a need for modernizing of our technology. So for that we are going for this. And this one is we are going for changing the nature of warfare. So traditionally what we can use in the war. So if you go to ancient period they used to do war by using swords and other equipments. But later on, they started using of animals like horses, elephants, right? Infantry, elephantry. So we have those things. And after that, now they started using of bombs, and later on they started using of now we have tanks, and we have certain equipments, guns, whatever it may be. And now the advancement is we can use this nuclear weapons, and as well as we can use this drone system. So we are focusing on multi-domain operations, like we are focusing on drone cyber warfare system, and we are focusing on network systems, and that will be very very helpful for our improvement of strategic stability. And not only that, we are focusing on our self-reliance. What is the self-reliance? We have to make our equipment in our country itself. Because what are the technology we had, we know that. So other countries will be not knowing that technology. So that we will be having more advantage in this war time. So we want to focus on the self-reliance so that we can decrease our dependence on foreign countries. So if you're depending on the foreign countries, whatever the technology that is outdated there, they will provide that. They will not provide the new advanced technology. So for that India will be getting disadvantage, right? So for that reason we want to focus on our indigenous or like domestic manufacturing of this defense system. And this one is we are also going for this strategic partnership and modernization. So India is going for agreements with different countries to get transfer of technology. We don't want only equipment. We need even the technology that you are using for this making of that equipment, so that we can say we can make some modifications and we can go for advanced development in our country itself. So we are going for this modernization through strategic partnerships for technology transfers as well. So what will be the impact, guys? So we can have good military deterrence, we can have strategic stability, we can have our enhanced drones and as well as nuclear capabilities now, so that we can fight both conventional or nuclear warfare with other countries. And this one here is drones will helpful especially for rapid targeting, and even they respond very fast, and even we can operate through AI based systems, and as well as cost is very less, and the manpower we required is very less here. And even if there is any war, the loss of life will be also very less if you are using these drones. So lots of advantages we have if you are fighting with drones. And next one here is, yeah, that's thing, you can see this and see this article, guys, very very important article of the day. Title says a new leaf. Environmental complaints need to be monitored at all levels. So actually what is happening here, day by day pollution is increasing, day by day development is increasing. So because of that it is having impact on our environment. So in yesterday's class we discussed that the flood water coming from this northern Indian states like Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. In that flooded water, some spiking visuals. What are those visuals? Like logs here coming in that flooded water. That means we can understand that there is huge level of deforestation, illegal felling of water, illegal felling of trees, or illegal logging is happening. So because of this, it is having lots of impact. So because of that visuals, CJI of India, that is Supreme Court highest judge CJI gave a statement that if it is goes on, we are not going to see any forest more for the next generation. That means complete deforestation leads to the extinction of the forest. Okay, that is a statement which mainly said. So because of this article is saying that at every stage we need to have this environmental compliance, and you have to know what is the meaning of this environmental compliance. So normally UPSC can give questions regarding these keywords. Like they'll give questions like environmental compliance is seen recently in news. Which of the following option best suits this? So like that, they'll give you just word environmental compliance, ABCD options, and you'll feel that it is very easy. But almost all those 4 sentences or 4 words will be giving same kind of meaning. So then you'll be confusing in this examination hall. So you should be very careful with this kind of concepts which comes in news. And this topic is very important from your GS paper 3 under environmental sciences, environment and ecology, guys. So actually this article is saying that environmental compliance monitoring at all level is essential for protecting of our ecosystems and even for protecting of our public health, and we can ensure businesses and governments they meet regulatory standards. So this, if you see the exact meaning of this environmental compliance, it is nothing but we have to go for proper monitoring, like using of tracking, accessing, reporting environmental performance of an organization or any industry or any project, etc., based on the legal and regulatory standards. So if you have any legal and regulatory standards, whether that established organizations which are focusing that or not, we have to see clearly. How we can see clearly? By tracking them, by accessing their data, and by reporting how they are performing in the websites or portals. So this is called as environmental compliance. Okay, why we have to go for this environmental compliance all the level? So we can ensure this corporations and as well as public facilities they meet environmental protection norms, like they are releasing emissions within the limits, and they are going for proper waste disposal mechanism, and they are protecting this natural resource. They are not exploiting this natural resources like that. And even because of this routine monitoring, we can go for early detection of pollutants and even unsafe practices, so we can minimize the risk of environmental disasters, for example chemical spills, oil spills, whatever it may be. And next one is we can increase transparency and accountability, and as well as we can take proper decisions based on this data. If you're not doing proper inspections, proper tracking, proper assessing, we will not get any data, so we can't take a proper decision. So for that also we need this. And what is the impact of this decision? Yes, we can have the stronger environmental protection, so we can preserve our biodiversity, our air, our natural resources, whatever it may be. And next one is we can give them it to our next generations. And next one here is economic and social benefits. So we can reduce fines, we can reduce the reputation risk of that so institutions and operational cost, and even we can enhance the compliance culture as well. So these are some advantages of implementing this environmental compliance at all stages in all industries. Okay, now let us see the next article, guys. See the title, Fixing Problems, Unlocking India's Growth Potential. So this article is very important from your economy point of view, because this article is talking about India's growth potential, and we have to see what are the problems in our economy, and as well as you have to see about what are the solutions for these problems, guys. So what are the normally problems in our economy? We have unemployment problem, we have lack of investments, and even because of tariffs, there is no proper trade, and other problems like increasing of burden on the families. Okay, we have environment and as well as economy related problems. So lots of the problems we have, like increasing of price in the market, that is called as inflation, and even because of this climate change also there is no proper agricultural production. So because of this, agriculture GDP is decreasing down, and especially in this manufacturing sector we are not focusing much on this manufacturing sector. So because of this contribution is very less. So lots of problems we have in all these sectors, primary, secondary and tertiary, which is having impact on our overall economic growth of the country. Okay, if you see this article, it is saying that we have to unlock India's growth potential, because whatever the deep rooted economic challenges we have in our country, for example, we have rigid factor markets, rigid market system, and we have weak infrastructure, and we have unemployment problem, and our goods are not globally competitive. So for these all in rooted or deep-rooted economic problems, we need to come up with the reforms. Then only we can achieve our target of third largest economy and as well as developed status by 2047. So if you see what are the key problems which are leading to the decreased growth in our countries, the first one, as I said, that is manufacturing sector. So manufacturing output is decreasing day by day. So because of this, there is decreasing of exports. And even there is a very high pressure on MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises. Actually, why we have to focus on this MSMEs is they will provide employment opportunities for 250 million people, and now we are having a very weak demand here, and because of this US 50% of tariffs, it is also having problem called as global uncertainties, and even there is increased cost pressures as well. And this one is even we have some structural barriers in our capital market and as well as money market system, and in our agriculture there is low productivity. And next one is there is underdeveloped infrastructure. We don't have proper transport system, we don't have proper digital connectivity, and we don't have proper energy access. So because of all these things, there is some restrictions on our productivity. And next one is very low job creation skill gap. So at just 15 percentage is nothing but some millions are entering into the workforce, especially in other countries. But in India, we don't have that because of lack of skill gap. Because whatever we are learning through our education, that skills are not meeting with the real time demand of the industries. And next one here is there is informality in our economy. Over 85%, is around 90% of people, they work in informal sector. So because of this, they will not have any social security benefits. It is also one important problem. And next one is if government wants to come up with any reforms, always we have delays in implementation. Policy lag will happen. So because of all these things, we have lots of impact on our growth. So what are the solutions, guys? The first one here is we have to make some reforms in this land, labor and capital. So these are very, very important for economy, right? So these are the four factors of production. So we have to come up with some reforms in this land, capital and as well as labor. And this one is we have to focus on improving of our infrastructure. So for that, government came up with one scheme called as PM Gati Shakti, very, very important. And not only this physical infrastructure, we have to focus on even digital connectivity as well. And we can develop economic corridors so that we can boost our productivity, and even we can go for free trade agreements, and even we can go for upgrading of skills and as well as educations in the people. And next important one is we have to formalize our economy. Only 10% of our economy is formalized. We have to increase that. And this one is we can focus on innovation, technology, etc. And this one is we have to come up with the policies. Whenever we are coming up with the policies, so based on that region, we have to design that. It should not be like one size fit for all states, because some states already good at manufacturing, some states are good at service sector, some states are good at agriculture. So because of this, we need to have a policy based on that region. And next one is we have to go for simplifying of trade regulations. We have to come up with more FTAs. We have to go for increasing of our exports, and we have to open our goods to the new markets. All these changes that we have to come up with so that we can improve our economy. So this topic is very, very important, and today's mains question is on this topic, guys, and in this way only you will be getting mains questions in your exam. So these are the important topics that happened in our today's Hindi newspaper, guys. By this I'm concluding. Thank you so much for this watching, and please do like this class and share this class to your friends. And you can follow us on even Instagram page where we are providing daily one prelims question with answer, and also mains question with model answer, and also current affairs in short, guys. Don't miss those updates. And thank you so much for watching.